There's another piece of information, I believe, and I need your support. I'm sorry, I don't have the bid that was put in by Farley and Sons for sand, I believe, included a disclosure statement that was signed that there is a conflict of interest.
That's correct.
So we have a signed statement from Mr. Farley that says he has a conflict of interest in bidding on town things. That has changed last year since the hearing. So we now have in writing that he knows he is in conflict with the charter, that he should not be bidding on things because he sits on the select board that may indeed have something to do with the acceptance of that.
I don't agree with that, but that would be a legal issue.
Yeah, well, we've got the paperwork. I don't have it with me.
It's amazing how much time we take trailing Mr. Farley.
It's obviously an end run that was set up, so.
What?
Okay.
You're telling me
All right.
you, too, didn't talk about this at all? This is not, this came completely from you.
Look, it's been
You
an
did not talk to
experience
Tom at all
over
about
3
this.
years where,
No, answer her question.
I think that's a fascinating question, that this came directly from you. You had no input from any other member of this board about this issue tonight.
This was my idea. I sat down and wrote the memo.
Right, but you never
tonight.
talked to anybody about this? That wasn't a discussion amongst you and any other member of the board? Ever in the last, let's say, 6 months?
Well, actually, I believe that
yeah, we've
if
had
it's just a conversation between two people,
yeah.
it doesn't violate the Open Meeting Act.
Right, but,
Unless it brings in a third.
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
okay, so I guess two of you can sit and do
We
that.
haven't even voted.
Okay.
So first we need to attend to the eligibility, and then we need to attend to the motion.
Yes. First, we have to, and we have not had a motion on it, though, on his eligibility. Technically, as chair, I can't make a motion, or I shouldn't be making a motion. I believe that's in
To say
Robert's
that
rules.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we say that Tom Farley is eligible to sit on this board, as we went through this before and found out that he was, and that he's a positive member of the board.
Second.
Okay, the motion is in the positive here, that Mr. Farley is eligible.
And I should abstain, correctly?
And you, yes, this is, the four of us have to vote on this.
Yeah.
Do we have any further discussion? No, then I will call for the vote. Landrith?
4.
Murphy?
Against.
Fogel?
4.
Chapman against.
Now
A
what?
2-2 vote fails, which my reading of it would be that he is not eligible.
That is not
That
true.
would
That's
be
It's
right.
not true, it's the
reading.
other way around.
You
Oh
have
my
to have
God.
3 votes for anything to carry,
You
Right,
have to
but-
have a-
and you don't have 3 votes. So that doesn't carry. First saying he's eligible does not carry.
Okay, doesn't say he's in it.
Doesn't mean that he's ineligible. It means the motion didn't pass.
Yeah, so,
The motion was to eligibility.
Yes,
Read the charter.
the motion was to eligibility.
Read the charter.
I understand the motion was to eligibility, but because the motion doesn't
fails.
pass, then the motion,
The charter, it's written in the affirmative, so it fails. And it has to be,
make another motion. Make it correct.
I make a
Thank you,
motion
Al.
that Tom Farley is not eligible to participate in this vote, in this matter.
We just discussed this. We just took the vote
We're taking
on the
a
opposite side.
different
You
vote.
don't just take and flip it something over and take another vote on it.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
What's the point of holding any vote?
Oh, my God, playing games.
I made a motion. We have a question as to whether there's a second or not.
I second it.
All right, I don't have a copy of Robert's rules in front of me to be able to determine whether or not we can do this, since we just took the vote the other way. I don't see. Okay. I'll call for the vote. Do we have any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Landrith?
Against.
Murphy?
4.
Fogel?
Against.
Chapman, 4. 2-2 vote again. It fails. We haven't proved anything.
That was my point in the first vote, is that it's not proving anything by a 2-2 vote, whether it's affirmative or
That's right.
negative. So in the absence of a clear decision, I've made a motion and we've had a second to call the question on the original motion.
And as chair, I'm gonna have to rule the motion out of order. Wow. Because the rest of us have not had an opportunity to consider it. We haven't even given the town manager an opportunity to address it.
Nor
And-
have we been given any opportunity, any information as to why, other than I don't like how it went last year. I've heard no evidence of any sort that has anything to do with either Mr. Peabody himself or with the contract process or with the actual contract of any certain part of it that is incorrect or not appropriate. I've been given no information whatsoever.
We've had 2 executive sessions that have been canceled, so we haven't had a chance to do that.
So we
No,
go in and run
The ones
and
that were
just,
canceled had nothing to do with his contract. There were executive sessions that had been preliminary scheduled to discuss the union contracts. It turned
Right.
out we had nothing to discuss, so we
I
canceled
would
the
think
executive session. You can't discuss something in an executive session that you haven't already laid out the reason to
It would be
have.
beneficial to both parties if we stop the debate and vote and then move forward, because it's gonna hurt both to continue on this road.
Wait, Alex says,
Mr. Chair, I have a question. And I'm not familiar with Robert's rules, but if you have the authority as chair to overrule a motion on the floor, a motion in a second, and you can stop a vote
I believe,
without a vote of the board?
oh, that's your budget. It's not
it's
your big book.
no, it's not my big book.
Right. I don't have my big book
Yeah,
either.
I
That's,
There are motions that are in order, and there are motions that are not in order. In this case, this is a substantial item, excuse me, a substantial agenda item that I feel really should have appeared on the agenda. I was not asked in advance to put this on the agenda, either for discussion in open meeting or discussion in executive session. And I think by taking this up at this time, first, we are doing the citizens of this town a disfavor, a disservice, I should say. And I believe that from my reading, and I don't have Robert's rules here, that such an action on my part would be in keeping with the proper procedure.
Bill, I'd like to respond to that. if you don't
Okay?
mind. I've toyed with the idea this week of asking you to have it put on as an executive session. However, the reason I decided to do it this way is because I felt having this discussion in executive session, we would run an extremely high risk of being out of order, because it would be very difficult to have this discussion in executive session without us having made a decision by everybody knowing how everybody feels behind closed doors. And that it could be construed as an unofficial vote where we came out here to just confirm what we did behind closed doors. And so I decided I was not going to bring it to you to bring up as an executive session, because I wanted to make sure it was open, whatever decisions we made were made in public, and that the entire thing was done in public, which I was under the impression is correct process, unless you get to the specifics of discussing performance of an employee, which is not what I'm here to do.
Well, then why didn't you ask me to put it on the agenda?
Because I spent most of the week trying to research and find out what was right and how to do it and how to make sure that I did things according to process. And the agendas were in our hands by the time I figured out what I thought. I've changed my mind 3 times today as to how I thought the correct process was, Bill, and in my research, this is what I believe is the right way to do it. So it's up to the board to disagree with
I
me.
think this is a blind side.
Okay.
I
It's
would
your
have,
prerogative to do so, and it's your prerogative to vote against me, against the motion. But my intent was to have it in public where I believed it was open for people to see on TV, the notes to be taken and stuff, so that we did not run the risk. I couldn't figure out how we could do this in executive session without running the risk of doing something incorrect in executive session.
so, and again, I want to ask the question. So your point is the non-renewable contract means that you don't want Robert Peabody in this job anymore?
I believe we should let this contract expire and not renew it. And in doing
So
so.
does that mean-
In doing so, I believe if this motion passes, that we should, according to charter, convene a committee to begin the research for a town manager.
Wait a minute, but we have plenty of people who work, and we have had town managers in the past who have worked without a contract. Mr. Peabody
I believe you
has.
just interrupted what was my response to your original question.
Yeah, let him finish then.
If this motion passes, then by charter, we need to address starting a committee to research and look for a town manager who would begin as of July 1st, 2011. Mr. Peabody would be more than welcome to apply for that job as anybody else would. He is not being fired. I'm not recommending he be fired from this position. I'm recommending that we do not renew the contract and we pursue the hiring of a town manager. Mind your way, Bill.
Nope, that's okay. I see what I wanted here. You wanted to respond?
So the point is that you, by starting this process, expect to go through the entire process of hiring a town manager for July 1st, though you leave it open
Or as
that
soon
someone
thereafter as
else.
it's reasonable that we actually do hire somebody.
So do you know how long of a process that is?
I do not.
Been there, done that.
So in other words, then, we could be without a town manager for some period of time.
It is possible, which is why I'm bringing it up at the beginning of April, rather than last year when it came up at a time where we were right at the end of everything. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult anytime something involves people and families, and that's
Well, it's
that's
difficult
tough,
because
and
I
that's-
still haven't seen any proof of in any form of what either the current town manager has done that is bad enough where we don't want to renew his contract, or that some part of that contract is not appropriate to offer to someone, him or someone else. I have not been shown anything. You were making a blanket statement that we're not going to renew this contract. That seems to me, from this standpoint, very personal, that you just want to find a way to get a new manager in there.
I'm not making a statement that we're not doing this. I'm making a statement that I don't believe that we should renew it. And if 3 out of 5 members of this board agree with me that they do not believe we should not renew this as well.
So we're going to not, we could potentially not renew the contract even though no evidence of any sort has been presented as to why we shouldn't. We're just going to make a decision. And I have to agree with our chairman on this, that this is totally an end run around me on the board. I'm obviously not in the in group that might have talked about this before, and it's definitely not fair to Mr. Peabody, who's sitting here tonight being told all of a sudden, in the next 20 minutes, you could no longer have a job. And I really find that outrageous, outrageous that we would treat anybody like this.
He would be being told, if the board voted that way, that when his contract expires on June 30th, that he would no longer have a job.
With no evidence, no information, except without a discussion, because there's been no discussion of anything, because that would have to be discussed in executive session, anything specific that Mr. Peabody either did correctly, incorrectly, broke a law, did whatever. All we have is just people making this decision with no discussion. And I find that just so out of order. I don't even have words for it.
Let me ask you this.